where did you initially find the material? Did you find the book first, or was it already a script? Or?
Yeah, no, we found the book. Is this on? Okay, good. We Emily Lansbury, who co-wrote the adaptation and also was my co-producer on it, she brought me the book, and she was reading YA novels and other novels and said, God, this really reminds me of our childhood. And I read it and I thought the same thing. The social media part was something that was added to update it, but it really is very much a story just about how hard it is to be a girl and how hard it is to be a teenager, and I think how hard it is to be a family, and it just, it was so authentic that I was just blown away by it, and I bought the book in 2007, and we tried to get it made as an independent feature for 10 years, and weren't able to. We got really close, and we hired Lori Collier, to be our writer-director, because we wanted a female. We kept getting close, and then it kept falling apart, and then it just got so frustrating, and then I got the opportunity to make it. And by the time I got the opportunity to make it, I wanted to direct. After saying I would never do it, and now I just love it. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life.
And Kevin, you've directed Kyra before a couple of times. What was it like to be directed by her this time?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I always believed that people always ask us what the secret to a long marriage is, and that's a question that I absolutely refuse to answer anymore. But there's a couple of things that you don't want to do if you want a long marriage, things like toilet seat up, things like that. And one of them is say, I told you so, because I told you so is just an annoying thing to hear from anybody. And this is my I told you so moment, because I knew she would be a good director, and I would often talk to her about, I wanted her to direct The Following, I wanted her to direct I Love Dick. I thought that when she was on The Closer, I was like, well, why don't you just step in and do one of those? And not only was I right about the fact that she would love it, because she did love it, I was also right about the fact that she would crush it.
Yeah. And absolutely.
So I told you so.
My biggest fan, thank you. In this case, I'll take it.
Ryann, this is very much a family project, not just Kevin and Kyra, but their daughter plays your sister-in-law, I guess.
Sosie, yeah.
And their son did the music, Travis. So what was it like for you coming in as not being related to the people on the set and playing, this character?
It was awesome. I didn't feel left out at all. They welcomed me with open arms. I went into Kyra's home before we started shooting, and it was just really welcoming and lovely, and I just knew I was in safe, good hands. They're good people, not just saying that. They're actually good people.
And Kyra, how did you find Ryann, and how did you decide on her for
Oh
the
my
role?
God. Well, we saw hundreds of girls, hundreds, and there you are. I was looking for a friend. And she walked in and she was Deanna. She was absolutely Deanna. She was exactly what I had in my mind. She was exactly she played the scenes exactly the way I heard them. I'm very much a musical person. Like I hear a scene, and she just she killed it. I knew when she came in for the first time that she was the one, but I called her back for no reason at all, except just to torture her. No, I'm only kidding. But no, she was extraordinary. I say, I wish I could tell you that I pulled this performance out of her, but she absolutely led the way on that.
So what was the biggest challenge about playing this role? You play her at two different ages. How did you kind of differentiate those phases of the character?
Well, speaking of being 13 in the movie, that was hard. That was dipping back 10 years. So 11 now. But so that was difficult. I really had to remember what it was like to be 13. And I tried to look up pictures on online and social media, but the 13-year-olds now look like they're older than me, so I was really confused in that sense. So that was a little difficult, but I just kind of went back through my old pictures for that part. And then the other part was feeling the shame, because I've never been outcast in the way that I felt shameful of something. I've been outcast in the sense that I was never in the cool group. I was always in and out of school because of acting. So like I never latched on to any friend group, and I felt different a lot of the times, but it wasn't really shame. It was more insecurity. So I had to like go deeper for that. And there was an instance during college that I felt shameful and just in my family, but I just really thought about that and channeled that.
And Kyra, what made you think of Kevin for the role of the gay pizzeria owner?
You know, listen, he's a brilliant actor, and I think he can do anything. Yes. In fact, I know he can do anything. But this was a role I haven't really seen him play this kind of a guy before, and I was so excited to see him crush it because I knew he would as well. I have to say that, you know, initially I was like, do you think maybe you could play a part to help us raise the money when we were trying to make it as an independent film? And I said, you know, throw the old lady a bone. But I knew he would be brilliant in the role, and the great thing is that he loved the role, and just, you know, so I was lucky.
What did you like about the role, Kevin?
You know, I think that sometimes I mean, we're in a room full of actors, so everybody, I'm not telling it something you don't know, but sometimes you read a part and, you know, you say, well, I think it's a good part, but it's going to be a really difficult process for me to get there. And sometimes you read it and you just kind of hear the voice, you know? It's like I heard him, I saw him. This is what it was on the page, you know. I just really, I immediately, you know, saw the way he would look and the way he would dress and move, and the ideas about his backstory, filling in those pieces of who he was outside of this town, and then returning back to this town, and why he was living this life in this pizza parlor, all those kinds of things. It just kind of was there for me. It was you know, somebody asked me today about what was the most difficult. The scenes weren't difficult for me. They were just kind of like fun and like strangely kind of joyful just to be in this man's skin for that time.
And Kyra, did you ever think about playing a role yourself, or why did you choose not to?
For the financing, at one point, I thought, you know, when I was just producing it, I thought I would play the mom, but I'm so incredibly grateful that I didn't have to do that because Caroline Cave is such an extraordinary actress. I mean, literally, what I felt about her was in those kitchen scenes, I could have just kept the camera on her the whole scene and you would know exactly what was going on. I mean, she just killed it. So thank God.
And you had worked with John Tenney for years on The Closer, of course. So what made you think of him for the role of the father?
You know, well, John has a very wonderful relationship with his daughter, and so I think he could really, I knew that he could really utilize that. I also knew that he was just dropping his daughter off to college right before we were about to start shooting, so I knew he'd be good and raw for me, part of my evil plan. Seriously, though, kind of. And I also knew that he would really work hard for me. And I also know what John needs as an actor, having watched him for 10 years, feels like 10 years. No, for 7.5 years on The Closer, I know exactly what he needs from a director. So you're already walking in knowing, you know, how to guide somebody to their best performance.
And you clearly have a wonderful relationship with your daughter because she's wonderful in the film. What was it like to direct her? And Kevin, what was it like to act opposite her? Or you don't have that many scenes with her, though, really.
I have no scenes with her, no.
Right. There's that. On
the set, though.
You know, I knew Sosie would be incredible. She's even more incredible than I had hoped. I was concerned that she was going to feel my critical eye on her because as a director, you have to have a critical eye, even though really what I spend most of my time doing is sitting behind the monitor, like doing a happy dance and, you know, cheerleading my incredible actors and telling them how amazing they are. She was easy, you know. I gave her tiny notes and she made tiny adjustments, and she was stunning and subtle and beautiful.
And you had directed Sosie before, though, right?
Yeah, I directed Sosie in her first movie. She was 10 years old, and she was playing Kyra as a young girl in flashback, and I was playing her father, so it seemed like she was like the perfect person. And she, you know, the only thing I'd ever seen her do was school plays, but I just kind of knew that she would be good in this. And also there was a singing component to the part, and she's a great singer. And you know, it was so interesting because at the time, you know, she was convincing us that she really didn't want to be an actress. And I remember telling her that I was probably going to need her for 4, maybe 5 days. And literally a 10-year-old girl, she said, I can't miss that much school. I can give you 3 days and that's that. I'm like, are you kidding me? But, you know, eventually, over time, I think that there was a long period of time before she actually decided that this is what she wanted to do with her life. One brief summer, the creator of The Closer went around our backs and offered her basically a summer job to be on The Closer for the summer, which I directed her there. We didn't really have any choice in the matter. You know, she kind of came to us. But I think that whether we wanted to or not, we always kind of gave her the impression that being an actress was not something that we wanted her to do. I think mostly because we knew how difficult it is, you know, and how, you know, you just get no after no after no. I don't have to tell anyone here about that. But it's, you know, it's a tough, you know, it's a tough thing. You don't necessarily want to put your kid through it. So she was trying to give us what we wanted, which was to do something else. And finally, in her second year of college, she said, you know, I'm going to be an actor. And so I think she's, you know, fantastic. And I thought she was remarkable in the movie. And having her in this little, you know, apartment that we rented in Vancouver, and, you know, having basically, you know, kind of you know, make a movie and have a sleepover. It was cool.
And then how was it decided that Travis, your son, would do the score for the film as well?
That was sort of an incidental thing. He read the script and said, you know, I'd love to, you know, do a few cues for you. And he's been a musician since he was 12, and he had written a couple of things that he'd sent into some TV shows, and it had gotten aired. But it certainly didn't seem to be what he was doing. And so I thought when he said, I just want to write some cues and no harm, no foul if you don't use them. And I was like, oh, this is going to be such a horrible conversation, because there's no way I'm hiring some novice to write the music for my first movie. But the cues he wrote were haunting. We put them in the edit because we were editing as we shot, and they worked so beautifully. And that I ended up hiring him. I had a plan B, but I didn't have to use it.
And Kevin, you're a musician too. I mean, you must be proud to have your son scoring a film that you're in.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, he plays in metal bands and industrial bands. The kind of music that he plays is much more hardcore than the score that he wrote. But he's been just a musical kind of creature, as in an engineer and a producer, as Kyra said, since he was a child. So he loved it. And what was really fun was to see the musical communication between my wife and him. And sometimes I was able to sort of, she would say, I'm feeling something about this, and I was able to sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes translate it in a way that a musician would understand, because that's like a language that's sometimes difficult to communicate. So it was really fun for me to see that unfolding between the two of them and their time spent in the editing room together and stuff. It was awesome.
Ryan, what was the hardest scene for you to shoot? I mean, there are some sensitive kind of things that you have to play out. What was the biggest challenge for you?
The hardest thing for me was my beginning scenes with John, who played my father, because we met before we shot. Kyra had us hang out and get to know each other, and he was great. He was so fun. We really hit it off. And then he came in, I guess like a week and a half into filming, and he was really cold and standoffish. And I was really taken aback. Part of me was like, I hope this is for the character, but he was so standoffish. I was like, oh my God, did I do something? I felt really bad. And so like the first time we got in front of the camera together, I was really nervous. I felt like he was gonna judge me, just like Deanna would feel being around her father. And so it really kind of threw me off and kind of took me out. So those were the hardest scenes for me, but I think I got to a good
And
place.
was it just part of the process, or did you talk to him about it afterwards? Or
Yeah, he told me that someone might have tipped him off to that.
Well, I think what I said to John was that he's such a gregarious, warm guy, and he really spends a lot of time on set, like being hilarious and telling the greatest stories. And I just said to him, you know, I would prefer it if you would hold your energy for yourself. And, you know, you are an island in this family. I mean, literally, those scenes in the kitchen, he's in the island there by himself in that seating area. No one else sits next to him. And I said, you know, you might want to consider doing that. And he did. And actually, he said it was really freeing for him as an actor. He was shocked that he had all this energy that he didn't realize he was expending, going like da 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 da, which is exhausting, you know. I mean, I spend a lot of time doing it too, but you know, it is exhausting.
yeah. What was the biggest challenge for you as a director? Was there one scene that you were most nervous about shooting, or?
I think I was most nervous about shooting those kitchen scenes because to me they were really the belly of the beast of this story. I mean, I think this is at the heart of it. It really is such a story about a dysfunctional family who has no tools on how to deal with things in a safe way and hold a safe place for people to have their feelings and to be heard and understood. And I just felt like those scenes were so important to get just right that I just so wanted everything to be perfect. So I was stressed during those days, but you know, they turned out beyond my wildest dreams. And the truth is that, you know, we had rehearsed them, but you know, I had nothing to worry about. They were great.
So since we're in a room full of actors, I wanted to ask you, when did each of you know you wanted to be an actor? I mean, you've all been acting since a young age. Do you remember the moment when it occurred to you that this was what you wanted to do?
Yes, I played Seidel in Fiddler on the Roof when I was 12, and it changed an otherwise unhappy childhood into a very happy one. So that's when I knew I wanted to be an actor.
How about you, Kevin?
I would wanted to be an actor before I knew what an actor was. My earliest memories are of walking into a room, wanting people to look at me, wanting to be the center of attention, and wanting to, in some way, perform, you know, for them. And then later on in life, I started to, one of my first toys, in a way, was my mother took a box that she called the costume box and just put a bunch of old clothes and hats and, you know, crap in there. And I would just sort of like get dressed as other people and start to pretend to be other people. So this is way before I really knew that what, you know, being an actor was. So there was really, there was no decision, really.
And what about you, Ryan? You've been acting since you were little.
Well, not to plagiarize, but very similarly for me to Kevin, except I would dress up my little brother as well.
You should be a director.
My mom continues to say that I'm going to direct one day, and I keep saying no, but maybe I'll have a Kyra moment. Because we would both get dressed up, and I would choreograph the entire thing, and then our family had to watch, and it was just constant. It was like every day after school. And my first role, I was a golden egg in Jack and the Beanstalk, so I like waddled
I
across
heard you were
the
amazing,
stage.
actually.
Yeah.
It's my best role to date.
And who were each of your role models as actors when you were starting out? I mean, were there people that you really gravitated toward and
You know, I loved Madeline Kahn. I was obsessed with her. Isn't she amazing? And then there were a lot of men, you know, like Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and you know, Meryl Streep, certainly. Yeah.
Well, for me, I think we had a movie theater that would run second-run movies for $1, and I went first to. I don't know how I got in. They might have reduced it. Midnight Cowboy was originally an X, and I think they might have, on its second run, dropped it down to an R, and somehow I wangled my way into the theater. And when I saw Dustin and John Voight, I was like, wow, they got this homeless guy and they got this cowboy to be in a movie. And the next movie that ran in that theater was The Graduate, which had come out before, but it was the next one to run there. And I went, holy shit, that's the same guy. Like, and that to me was what being an actor was.
And how about you, Ryan, other than these two, obviously? Who would you look up to as actors?
My favorite movie is $1 Million Baby because when I was younger, I saw that and I was just moved to tears. It was the first time in a theater I couldn't catch my breath. So I had a fetish kind of with Hilary Swank, and she's still one of my favorites. And actually, on my first movie I ever got to do, I got to meet her.
Oh, really?
And shake her hand. It was so surreal.
And do you remember what roles got each of you your SAG cards? Was it Animal House, Kevin, or do you remember?
Yeah, Animal House, yeah.
What was that experience like?
Well, I mean, you know, I was in acting school right down the street at Circle in the Square, and I was 18 or 19 years old, and the casting director came uncharacteristically came to the school and asked if they would send some kids over to play frat boys. And I went over and I had this audition. It was a strange audition because I had hardly any lines in the movie. So I remember I was trying to make faces. Like the director, John Landis, wanted me to make a face. He wanted to make a face. He wanted me to do something smarmy, and I didn't know what the word smarmy meant. But it was kind of like an onomatopoeia. So I just like made a face that I thought sounded like smarmy, and I got the part, and the guy called me up and said, you have to be in Oregon, in 2 weeks, and it blew my mind. I mean, it just blew my mind. Of course, I came back to New York after having not a pot to piss in and no career, and working as a busboy, and I came back and I thought I was a bona fide movie star, having done my first movie, and I went through the money in about a week and a half, and went back to the restaurants and kept waiting tables and went back to acting school, and but that was where I got the card.
Do you remember, Kyra, what got you your card?
I think it was War and Love, which was originally called Children of the Warsaw Ghetto or something. It was a Holocaust film that we actually shot in Budapest and Poland, and I'm pretty sure that's where I got my SAG card.
And Ryan, do you?
Yeah, I played a young Amelia Earhart in the movie Amelia. That's where I met Hilary Swank. Yeah, I think that was it. Or just like the millions of commercials I did as a kid.
And what roles have been the most meaningful to each of you in your careers? Are there ones that really stand out above the rest?
Story of a Girl.
I really should know and have an answer to this question. I should really have an answer to this question. But, one of the breakout roles for me was Emma Ray in Something to Talk About, playing Julia Roberts' sister. It was just a brilliant role. It was really funny. And, it was a real moment for me.
Kevin,
it was very well written.
Can you pick a few that?
A few good roles. I don't know. It's a weird thing because the experiences are oftentimes, since I really don't revisit the movie because it's just too, I can't stand it. I love seeing it when it first comes out, but I just can't take it afterwards. So what the memories become is more like the experience of making the movie. You know what I mean? Like I had a really fun time making Diner, and when we made Tremors, Kyra was 9 months pregnant with my son, and I remember that, and I had a great time making Mystic River. That was like kind of like everything about that, from director to cast to place to everything, was just cool script, But there's not one part that I go, oh, that was the one.
Yeah. And Ryan, aside from Story of a Girl, which I'm guessing is probably the highlight now, what else stands out for you?
Well, I have to say, going to Story of a Girl, it really is because, and I'll go, my other part that I loved was I played Deva on Banshee for 4 years, a TV show on Cinemax, and I loved that experience. I loved growing with a character for 4 years. But in Story of a Girl, Deanna, I just, like Kevin said, the experience as a whole, it was awesome. All the people were great. I still text the cast Vancouver was awesome. Shooting was awesome. It was just a great experience.
And Kevin and Kyra, how have you managed to kind of balance your personal lives and your professional lives? I mean, you work together sometimes, other times, want to work while the other one doesn't. Now the kids
Very carefully.
now the kids are both pretty much grown, but how have you managed to navigate it as well as you have?
Honestly, it's, I think we've really just gotten lucky. We have similar priorities and we make it work.
And what about you, Kevin? Do you have any wisdom on this subject? Or?
I think that we feel in support of each other as opposed to in competition with each other. I think that's a big piece of it.
Yeah. We're almost out of time, but we have one question from, two questions actually from one person. This is from Michael McCausland for Kyra and Kevin. First of all, you two are the cutest couple ever, he says. And Kyra,
CCE.
the question for Kyra is, what is your secret to staying forever young and in love?
Haven't you been asked this like 30
Definitely not
times?
forever young, nor do I want to be, frankly. I mean, my God, I'm grateful that I'm 51, and I think 51 is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome. I think getting older is like the greatest thing that ever happened to me. You become freer and more comfortable with yourself, and you're not afraid to use your power. I mean, nothing's better than that. In love, we just got lucky. We really just got lucky.
And Kevin, would you ever do another dance movie like Footloose, and do you still practice your dance moves?
Yeah, never say never. I think, do I practice my dance moves? Not too often, no. No. Somebody was asking me about that the other day, if we go out dancing. And, the thing is that we love to dance. And if we have our own party behind the safety of closed doors, we will dance, and we'll dance like all night. But to actually go out dancing, as much as we would like to, it's just not, it's just, the DJ always puts Footloose on. People form a circle around me, clapping in unison, expecting me to sort of perform tricks like a trained seal or something. So I tend to avoid it.
Well, we won't do that to you, but we will thank you for coming out and sharing your time with us and
Thanks
sharing
so
fun with
much.
us.
Thank you.